let's call it a take, shall we? A take of what Keir Mather's age means and why he wasn't especially comfortable with it in the House of Commons. Listen to this.
I think it's always good to get new people in politics. I mean, I think we mustn't become a sort of repeat of the Inbetweeners, right? So I think you've got to have people who've
What do you mean by that?
Done stuff. Well, this guy has you know, he's been at Oxford University more than he's been in a job. You put a chip in him there and he just relates Labour lines. And the problem is people have kind of had enough of that, right? They want people who are authentic, people who've worked in that constituency, who know what life is like, understand what life is like, you know, to live, work and raise a family in communities like theirs. So no, I'm afraid I don't agree with this style of politics. It's exactly why people like me didn't vote before the 2015 election, because you've got people with nothing to do with the constituency just dropped in and, you know, put a chip in them and they'll start parroting Labour Party politics.
Mr. Mercer went on to say that how could, for example, a young person like Keir Mather have any understanding of, you know, cost of living issues and everything like that. I found that the most extraordinary exchange, frankly. I mean, first of all, it was... I mean, by the way, I should preface this by saying I actually like Johnny Mercer. I think he's an interesting person in the House of Commons. He's got lots of passions and he's represented particularly military and veterans affairs extremely ably in his parliamentary career since he came into Parliament. But I have to say, maybe that was a bit of an off-colour moment at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was. But I think the condescension to a young man who obviously cares deeply about politics, who's gone into the House of Commons, who's given up his time, who's made extraordinary application to become elected, was, frankly, the condescension was dripping. And it was completely inappropriate. I think probably Mr. Mercer owes Mr. Mather an apology. Quite frankly, the idea that a 25-year-old isn't able to represent people well in the House of Commons. I tell you this, we need more 25-year-olds in the House of Commons. We need more 30-year-olds. We've got plenty. What do we want? More 60-year-old geezers? Because we've got plenty of those, believe me. We've got plenty of men in their late 50s and 60s who, by the way, have all done quite similar things. They've been in management consultancy and this, that and the other, or in the city or in business. I'm not saying we don't need them, but how many MPs have we got who are under 30? Very, very few in any given time. And I'll say this, maybe if we did have more MPs who are under 30, maybe in terms of issues around age and issues around the way that our broken economy completely screws young people in so many ways, maybe things would be better. Maybe we'd have better situation for renters, for example. Maybe we'd have a better situation in terms of student loans. Maybe we'd have a better situation in terms of transport and young people are and the fact they have to go to work, instead of a politics which is increasingly dominated by people who are over 65, and that includes, or over 60, and that includes, by the way, the House of Commons. Not understand cost of living issues? Young people are at the forefront of cost of living issues. Has anyone checked what rent is recently for young people? They're the ones at the forefront of it. It's not people who've already paid off their mortgage who are at the centre of the cost of living crisis, by the way. It's young people who are either trapped in unbelievably expensive rental accommodation in contracts which are not in any way advantageous to them, who are trapped in having to do that, who are trying to scrape every penny together to maybe get on the housing ladder. And by the way, maybe when they do, then the mortgage crisis that we've currently got comes and hits them. We need more young people in the House of Commons. And quite frankly, as well, let's just say that people in glass houses really shouldn't throw stones. Because let's not forget the reason that by-election was even happening in the first place. The only reason that Mr. Keir Mather is even a Labour MP right now at all is because Mr. Nigel Adams, a Conservative, I don't know how old he was, I think he's in his 50s. The only reason why Adams isn't there anymore and Mather is an MP is because Nigel Adams got off in a total huff, went off in a total mood because he wasn't given a peerage by Rishi Sunak. Is that the sort of experience and the sort of person that we want in the House of Commons? Someone who goes off in a total mood because he's not going to be put in the legislature for life? And by the way, again, talking about glass houses, I'm a hobby horse here, I accept, but talking about glass houses, what about the situation where the Conservative Party apparently has no issue whatsoever putting a 29-year-old and 31-year-old in the House of Lords? That is supposed to be this upper house full of experience. Well, if it's a problem having a 25-year-old elected member of the Commons, who, by the way, the good people, the voters of Selby and Ainsley can choose to dispense with his services whenever they choose when the next election comes, none of us can do anything about these young Conservative peers who've just put in the House of Lords for life, for the next 50 years, voting on laws over us with no accountability whatsoever. So let's just think a little bit before we start going down that road. And I think, to be honest, what it reflects is what I think is a deeply inverse ageism which takes place often in this country. And young people are often told to just dismiss, their concerns are dismissed, told to just sort of shut up. They're sort of woke and all of this sort of stuff. The media, the press do it the whole time. Politics does it. You know what? It would be a really, really good idea if we had more 20-year-olds, more 30-year-olds, etc. in the House of Commons and the media for that matter as well. Because I think they bring more life experience than many, many people who are much older than them. What do you think about this? Do you think that Johnny Mercer is right, that that it isn't good, that you don't have younger people in the House of Commons, that you need more experience before you go there? Or like me, do you think that this is a pretty extraordinary thing to say? 0345 6060 973, 0345 6060 973, text 84850, tweet at LBC. First, let's talk to Rob, who's in Sheffield. Rob.
Hiya. I'd like to say I'm a similar age to Keir, and I'd like to congratulate him on his election. I stood as a city councillor. I am a city councillor in Sheffield, just down the road from him, and it is amazing what Johnny Mercer's commentary is suggesting. There's a reason why city councillors in the UK are 60. The average age of them is 60, and I just feel that there is a disconnect, and people are not listening to what people are saying. Whilst I was out on the doorstep during the local elections and I saw a family and they had a young person in the household, I said, I'd love to talk to you as parents, as the homeowners, but a child, I'd love to talk to them about what matters to them, because there is so much more that we are missing out on in our political discourse because we're not engaging young people.
Yeah.
And the commentary which Johnny Mercer gave last night just exemplifies how we view young people. That their views aren't important.
Yeah.
And they came up with some brilliant things. And I said, send me an email with your top 3 priorities and I'll tell you what the Lib Dems are doing about it. And I always replied, and they came back with things like HMO regulation, fast fashion, how we're helping with our bus services, everything like that I would never get from someone in their 40s, 50s and 60s. And we need to be engaging these people.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely. And, look at everything, again, going on, add to that list of what I was saying about younger people's concerns. Maybe we'd have a different planning system in this country to the one that we currently have. Maybe we'd be building more houses. Maybe we'd have better childcare and so on. The problem with Britain isn't we've got too many young people in Parliament, so we've got increasingly a gerontocracy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we decide our political narrative on who votes. And people who can't see people like them in Parliament, and I often say to people, you can't be what you can't see. If we fail to see young people getting involved in politics, then young people don't have an incentive to vote. And when they don't have an incentive to vote, they don't drive the narrative. There is a reason why we're talking about ULEZ. There is a reason why, and places like Uxbridge and South Ruislip voted against ULEZ is because young people aren't engaged with that. This is the future.
Well, they don't have cars. They can't afford it.
There you go. We are driving our political narrative based on what matters to the people who vote.
Yeah.
And if we don't engage young people, our political narrative won't engage them either. And we need to be breaking that. And it just breaks my heart when I hear Johnny Mercer talking in that way about how our young people are engaging, because we're never going to fix it if we keep on with this mentality.
Rob in Sheffield there. Couldn't agree more, to be honest. Like I say, I think Johnny Mercer is actually a good MP and he's a decent man, but I think that in this one, perhaps it was just a late night slip, but it wasn't entirely thought through. I think it's fair to say. Perhaps he'll have a rethink about it.